By the time Tina started suspecting that somebody was following her, she had already talked herself out of it twice. The first time she blamed the journey. She had been traveling all day and was exhausted. The second time she blamed Jessica. Ever since afternoon, Jessica had been flooding her phone with voice notes. Don't come late. If transport delays you, sleep wherever you are. Call me when you get to the gate. At the time, Tina had laughed. Now she wasn't laughing anymore. The road leading to the lodge was quiet. Not completely empty, just quiet enough for fear to find space. A woman sat at the corner packing oranges into a basin under the weak glow of a torchlight. Tina found herself looking at the woman more than once, not because of the oranges, because she was another human being, because seeing someone else made the road feel less lonely. Then she heard it again, footsteps. Behind her, Tina kept walking. The damaged wheel of her traveling box cracked stubbornly against the rough road. For several seconds, she tried to convince herself it meant nothing, but the footsteps refused to disappear. They remained there, steady, patient, and following her. A cold feeling crawled into her stomach. She adjusted the handbag pressed against her side and glanced back. The man was still there. This time, she saw him clearly. He wasn't hurrying. He wasn't trying to overtake her. He was simply walking behind her and watching. And the moment their eyes met, he smiled. Not a friendly smile, not the kind strangers exchange on the road. Something about it made Tina's chest tighten. Suddenly, every warning Jessica had sent earlier returned to her at once. Her mouth went dry. She tightened her grip on the box and faced forward again. Don't run, don't panic. Just get to the lodge. That was all she needed to do. Get to the lodge. The gate was already in sight when she noticed someone standing near it, a young man. The stranger saw him too, and almost immediately, something changed. The smile disappeared. His steps slowed. A few seconds later, he turned around and ran away. Just like that, he ran. Tina stopped. For a moment, she simply stood there, trying to understand what had happened. The young man looked in the direction the stranger had disappeared, then looked at Tina. His gaze dropped to her traveling box. One wheel was hanging on, and for reasons Tina would never understand, that was what caught his attention. Not her frightened face, not the stranger, but the box. A small smile appeared on his face, and somehow that ridiculous observation cracked through the fear that had been sitting on Tina's chest. For the first time that night, she laughed. A few minutes later, he was carrying the box upstairs. The strange thing was how comfortable it felt. He wasn't trying to impress her, wasn't asking personal questions, wasn't behaving like somebody who expected anything in return. He simply helped. The lodge was usually quiet, with only a few occupied rooms scattered across the building. Most students were still far away for the holiday. The silence seemed to follow them up the stairs. Yet somehow, Tina no longer felt afraid. By the time they reached Jessica's room, the panic from the road already felt distant. The young man dropped the box at the entrance and reminded her to lock her door properly. Then he left. Tina watched him disappear down the corridor. She still didn't know his name. Oddly enough, she didn't ask him. She went in for a quick bath and she fell deep into sleep after that. Tina met him properly later that afternoon. The bucket in Jessica's room had a crack, so she went downstairs to fetch water. The lodge was still half empty because most students hadn't returned from holiday, and the few people around moved with the unhurried laziness of a campus that wasn't fully awake yet. She was bending over the tap when a familiar voice spoke beside her. The box. Apparently it had survived the night. Tina turned and found the young man standing there with a bucket in one hand and detergent in the other. In daylight, he looked different, younger, less than a stranger who had appeared at night, and more like somebody who belonged there. Before long, they were talking. The conversation started with the damaged wheel on Tina's traveling box and somehow drifted to school, departments, and the endless frustrations of university life. That was when she finally learned his name. Andrew. Just Andrew. He was a final year student. Tina told him she had come for her master's program. Andrew looked genuinely surprised. not in a rude way, just surprised enough for Tina to immediately accuse him of thinking she looked younger than she was. The accusation earned a laugh. A few seconds later, the argument had dissolved into playful teasing. And before Tina realized what she was doing, she was laughing too. The strange thing was that it was easy. She had known him for less than a day, yet talking to him didn't feel awkward. It felt familiar and comfortable. At one point, two girls passed by carrying buckets. One of them glanced at Andrew, then at Tina. The look lasted barely a second. Still, Tina found herself sitting up a little straighter. Not because she liked him, at least that was what she told herself. 3 days later, Jessica finally returned. The journey home had stretched longer than expected, and she arrived looking exhausted, carrying a small bag and what was very obvious, the beginning of malaria. Within an hour, Tina had promoted herself to a nurse, cook, an errand girl, and a full-time caretaker. Jessica spent most of her time arguing that she wasn't sick while looking exactly like somebody who was. Somewhere in the middle of all of that, Andrew kept appearing. Not dramatically, not in a way that demanded attention, just quietly. He showed Tina where to buy decent food, helped her carry water whenever she needed it, pointed out which vendors to avoid. And when Jessica suddenly developed late-night cravings, he sometimes accompanied Tina to the shop rather than letting her go alone. He never acted as though he was doing anything special. Maybe that was why Tina lowered her guard around him so quickly. There are people who force themselves into your life. Andrew wasn't one of them. He simply appeared in the ordinary corners of Tina's day so often that eventually seeing him stopped feeling surprising. It started feeling normal. The first time Tina entered room 9, it was because of rain. Andrew had lent her a power bank earlier that day after her phone died during an important call. She was returning it when the sky finally gave up pretending. The rain came down so sudden that by the time she reached the corridor outside room 9, returning back to Jessica's room was no longer an option. Andrew opened the door, took one look at the rain, and stepped outside. Tina didn't need much convincing. Room 9 looked exactly like she imagined a final year room student would be. Books everywhere, a kettle, a cup that had clearly seen difficult times. A small mirror hanging on the wall, nothing special. The kind of room that slowly collected pieces of somebody's life. Tina sat carefully on the only plastic chair available while Andrew watched her with obvious amusement. There was enough space on the bed, enough space almost everywhere, yet she still managed to sit like somebody waiting for an interview. That observation entertained Andrew far more than it should have, and somehow, before either of them realized it, an hour had passed. Outside, the rain refused to stop. Inside, the conversation refused to become awkward. For Tina, that was the strange part. Usually, spending that much time alone with somebody new came with moments of silence, moments where both people ran out of things to say. That never seemed to happen with Andrew. The conversation flowed. By the time the rain finally ceased, Tina left room 9 carrying something she hadn't arrived with, comfort. A few days later, Jessica noticed it, not the rain, not the room, the change. She was still recovering from malaria and had spent most of the afternoon behaving like a patient. Tina had stepped outside for fresh air and somehow ended up sitting and talking to Andrew. By the time she returned, Jessica was waiting, watching and suspicious. The moment Andrew's name left Tina's mouth, Jessica's eyes narrowed. That was all the confirmation she needed. From that day onward, Tina's life became difficult. Every conversation somehow led back to Andrew. Every mention of his name earned a look, a smile, a raised eyebrow. Jessica stopped seeing him as a person and started seeing him as a developing situation. The more Tina denied anything was happening, the less convincing she sounded. And the worst part was that Jessica wasn't entirely wrong because Andrew had become part of her day. Somehow, without asking permission, he was the person she looked for when she came downstairs, the person she expected to run into near the tap, the person she found herself wanting to tell little things to. Of course, Tina refused to admit any of this, especially when Jessica announced that she wanted to meet him properly, not because she was curious, because she wanted to assess him. That single statement nearly made Tina choke with laughter. Jessica delivered it with the seriousness of a woman conducting interviews, and from that moment, officially became an ongoing investigation. The strange thing was that Jessica never seemed to meet Andrew, not for lack of trying. At first, Tina thought it was coincidence. The few times she pointed Andrew out from a distance, he always seemed to remember something somewhere and where he was supposed to be. Another time, Jessica followed Tina downstairs because she was tired of hearing Andrew's name every day without putting a face to it. That day, Andrew was nowhere to be found. At the time, none of them seemed important, just bad timing, nothing more. The days passed quietly after that. The school was gradually waking up from holiday. More students returned, more doors opened. The lodge slowly filled with noise again. People argued about water, about light, about generator money. Faces that had become strangers started becoming familiar. And in the middle of all of that, Andrew became familiar too. Without realizing it, Tina started expecting to see him. When something funny happened, he was the first person she wanted to tell. When she came downstairs, her eyes searched for him automatically, and somewhere along the line, Jessica stopped teasing her before she defended herself. One Saturday morning, Jessica was running late for class. She was hopping around the room looking for missing sandals when something caught her attention. Tina, sitting in front of the mirror, adjusting her hair, applying lip gloss, trying very hard to look like she wasn't making an effort. Jessica froze, then suddenly turned to her, the way detectives look at the suspect who about to confess. Tina immediately knew trouble had arrived. The interrogation started at once. Why was she looking nice? Where exactly was she going? And most importantly, was Andrew involved? The more Tina denied it, the less convincing she sounded, which only encouraged Jessica. By the time the missing sandals finally appeared from under the bed, Jessica had reached a conclusion and refused to change her mind. Andrew was her man. Case closed. Even after leaving for class, she continued making predictions about the future of a relationship that didn't exist, at least according to Tina. The room became quiet after she left. For a few moments, Tina remained in front of the mirror. When she caught her own reflection and for the first time, she allowed herself to consider something she had spent days denying. Maybe Jessica wasn't completely wrong. Maybe she had taken a little longer with the hair that morning. Maybe the lip gloss wasn't entirely necessary. Maybe, just maybe. The thought made her smile. Only for a second, then she quickly looked away, refusing to give Jessica the satisfaction, even in private. The corridor looked unusually beautiful that morning. The sunlight spilled across the walls in soft stripes of gold, and for reasons Tina couldn't explain, she suddenly felt like taking pictures. At first it was just one, then another. Soon she was standing near the railing, completely distracted, examining each photo like it was a matter of national importance. Some were deleted immediately, some survived. By the fifth picture, she had forgotten why she came outside in the first place. That was when she heard the familiar voice behind her, Andrew. The smile appeared on Tina's face before she could stop it. Unfortunately, Andrew noticed, and judging from the look on his face, he immediately became suspicious. Tina looked at her phone, then at Andrew, then back at her phone. The idea arrived. Andrew saw it arrived and instantly regretted being there. A few seconds later, Tina was trying to convince him to take a picture. Andrew wanted absolutely no part of it. The more he refused, the more amused she became. Apparently, for a man who could talk comfortably, was shy of standing in front of a camera. Tina found this hilarious. Andrew did not. Eventually, he surrendered, not because he wanted to, because Tina was clearly not going to stop. The moment he stepped into position, her face lit up. One picture became two, two became three, and before Andrew realized what was happening, he had become the unwilling victim of a full photo shoot. His complaints only made Tina laugh harder. At some point, she secretly took another picture while he wasn't paying attention. Just a candid moment, nothing special, just Andrew laughing. The kind of picture people take when they want to remember somebody exactly as they are. At the time, neither of them thought anything about it. It was a Saturday morning. A little teasing, a few pictures, a memory. Almost 2 weeks after arriving in Lodge 369, Tina went looking for Andrew in room 9. That was his room. The excuse was simple. She wanted to return something he had learnt. At least, that was the explanation she gave everybody else. Jessica had spent the entire morning making fun of her. The charger she planned to return had somehow become evident. According to Jessica, nobody changed outfits twice just to return a charger. Tina had denied everything with the confidence of a person who was obviously guilty. Now she stood outside room 9 with her phone in one hand and a small nylon bag in the other. She knocked, waited, nothing. She knocked again, still nothing. At first, she wasn't worried. People left their rooms all the time. People slept. People ignored knocks. But something about the padlock bothered her that she didn't see at first. Tina couldn't explain why. For the first time that morning, a small uncomfortable feeling settled in her chest. She knocked towards room 10 and a man who had been sleeping woke and opened the door. His eyes were heavy. His expression carried the quiet irritation of somebody dragged away from a peaceful afternoon. Tina apologized quickly and pointed towards room 9. She was looking for Andrew. The reaction she got wasn't suspicious. It was confusion, kind of confusion that immediately made her uneasy. The man asked for a surname, and for the first time, Tina realized she didn't have one. She knew Andrew was in engineering. She knew he hated being sold outside the lodge. She knew he had a sister. She knew the way he laughed, the way he listened, the way he always seemed to appear whenever she needed help. But she didn't know his surname. The realization embarrassed her more than it should have, so she described him instead. Tall, fair, final year student engineering. The man's face brightened slightly. For a second, relief rushed through Tina. Then it disappeared. The person who used to stay there, he asked. Tina nodded immediately. Yes, that was him. The man frowned. That's not Andrew. The words landed strangely. The neighbor scratched his head. According to him, the room belonged to a quiet family man who hardly stirred around. He came and went, kept to himself, nothing unusual. Tina barely heard the rest. One phrase had already attached itself to her thoughts. Family man. For one horrible second, her mind rushed to the wrong direction. A wife, a secret marriage, a double life. He moved out. Tina blinked. Moved out? The man nodded. About 2 weeks ago. This time the corridor seemed to tilt. 2 weeks. That wasn't possible. She had been inside room 9. She had sat there while rain hammered the roof. She had stood beside that door, taking pictures there, laughed there. She had been there last week, not 2 weeks ago, last week. The neighbor watched the color drain from her face. Then he asked a simple question. Did she have a picture? The question felt like a lifeline. Of course she had pictures, dozens of them. Tina grabbed her phone for the first time since the conversation started. Confidence returned. She opened her gallery. The first picture appeared Jessica. The second, Jessica again. Tina kept swiping. Her confidence lasted less than 10 seconds. A photo she clearly remembered taking with Andrew showing only herself, smiling beside empty space. Another showed Tina reaching towards someone who wasn't there. The smile disappeared from her face. She swiped faster, then faster. The panic was rising now. Because she knew these pictures, she remembered taking them. She remembered Andrew standing there, yet every photo told a different story. Then she found the one she wanted, the picture of Andrew alone. Tina opened it. The corridor was empty. No Andrew, no shadow, nothing. Just the wall, just room 9, just emptiness. Her fingers went cold. Immediately she opened the video, the one from that Saturday morning. The one where Andrew had complained about being photographed. The video played. Tina's laughter filled the screen. Her voice spoke. The camera moved. The corridor appeared empty. Completely empty. She could hear herself talking to Andrew, laughing with Andrew, teasing Andrew, but there was nobody there. Not even Andrew's voice. Tina stopped breathing. Beside her, the neighbor took one look at the screen and took a step back. The way people step away from things they didn't want to get involved in. A few moments later, he quietly suggested security and disappeared back into his room. The door closed and Tina was left alone. For a long time, she didn't move. Slowly, she turned back to room 9. The padlock was still there, silent, waiting. Something pulled her closer. She peeped through the gap beside the door and the last piece of her certainty disappeared. The room was empty. Not messy, not packed. Empty. At first, she wanted to believe he was actually secretly married. But what about the pictures? She wasn't able to explain it. And somehow, she refused to say the words her mind had settled on. A ghost. She found it hard to believe because ghost stories were never supposed to look like Andrew. They weren't supposed to smile or laugh or help you carry your box. They weren't supposed to sit with you and listen to your problems. They weren't supposed to become the best part of your day. Yet, Tina was standing outside an empty room with a photo full of impossible pictures, and for the first time she allowed herself to ask the question she had been avoiding. What exactly was Andrew?